Anybody else? All right. I'd like to call this meeting to order at 6:05. We're going to change things up slightly, but I still want you to rise in honor of this awful day. I wanted to start tonight with a moment of silence before we do the pledge. Thank you. And now the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Roll call. Trustee Pine?
Yes.
Trustee Lewis?
Here.
Trustee Bushner?
Present.
Trustee Ryan?
Here.
Trustee Patton?
Here.
And O'Malley?
Here.
Also present is Attorney Andrew Gilchrist.
Yep. Attorney Engel is en route, stuck in Troy traffic.
Sorry.
All right. I'm very glad to have EPA here, and as well as Kirby Webster from SKIO Solutions to present to the board and to the community the final report of the Technical Assistance Needs Assessment. This report is online at the village website for anyone to see. With that, I want to turn it over to you guys. Wherever you want is fine.
All right, great. Hello, hi everyone. So my name is Larissa Romanowski, and I'm a public affairs specialist with the Environmental Protection Agency out of the Hudson River office. As many of you know, back in the summer of 2017, the McCaffrey Street facility was added to the federal national priorities list. And while New York State continues to be the lead for the investigation of that site and for the other sites in the area, one of the initiatives that the agency often undertakes at newly listed federal Superfund sites is something called a Technical Assistance Needs Assessment. And that's done through our Technical Assistance Services for Communities program. So last fall, in coordination with the State Department of Environmental Conservation and the State Department of Health, we initiated a TANA. And the goal or the purpose of the TANA is really to hear from the community and to get some perspectives and a better understanding of the kind of information people feel that they need and how they want to be kept informed. So with that, I'd like to introduce Kirby Webster from SKIO Solutions, who's going to be talking a little bit more about the TANA report and the recommendations. And then after that, the New York State Department of Health and the New York State Department of Environmental Conservation are going to be talking about next steps and some of the initiatives that they are undertaking, really as a result of all the feedback that we've been receiving. So thank you, and thank you, Kirby.
Thank you, Larissa. Hello, everyone. As Larissa said, my name is Kirby Webster. I work for an environmental consulting company called SKIO Solutions. And we work on EPA's Technical Assistance Services for Communities contract called TASK. The intent of the TASK program is to provide communities with non-advocacy, independent technical assistance. So there's a brochure here that I'll leave a pile of them on the table. If you'd like to read more about the TASK program itself, you're welcome to take a look at it. As Larissa mentioned, what we were asked to do under TASK here in Hoosick Falls was to conduct a technical assistance needs assessment called a TANA. And we were asked to do this in coordination with EPA as well as New York State DEC and DOH. So we've just recently finished the TANA. This is the report itself. As the mayor mentioned, it is available on the village website as well as the town's website and EPA's website. So if there aren't enough copies here tonight, you're welcome to find it online. The process for a TANA is to start by speaking with people who would be affected or potentially affected by the cleanup to hear if people have any needs or concerns or what their perspectives are on the cleanup so far. And then when we hear all of that information, we compile it into this report, and then at the end of the report, we list out recommendations of how those needs could be met as the cleanup continues. So this report lists out in the beginning the people who have informed the report itself. All of those folks were asked to take a look at the draft report to make sure that their opinions were accurately incorporated into this report. And then I'm just going to overview the recommendations that are included in this. There's more details in the report itself, but the recommendations that we came up with were to form a community-based group and then provide information to that group as to how they could hire a technical advisor if that's something that they are interested in doing. To hold workshops or sessions to have people be able to come and ask questions or to provide information. And all of the questions that people had are also in this report, so that's available for people to know. As part of that recommendation, also to prepare fact sheets that would cover the information that people had questions about. Another recommendation in the report is to communicate frequently over a variety of different methods so that people get site updates through those communications. And the last recommendation in the report is to work with the village and the town to prepare a forum or website, which would be kind of an opportunity, a place for people to go if they have questions. They can go and find information on the website itself. Does anybody have any questions about the TANA process or the recommendations or anything related to the TANA? And you're welcome to ask later, at any time. I'll be here. No questions though? Okay. Of course, about the TANA.
All right, thank you very much. And again, hard copies here, available on the village website, town website, EPA. Dovetailing off of that, DEC and DOH are both here to present some of the work they've been doing in terms of community engagement and a website, which is things that we've been sort of talking about and moving on for a while now.
Sure. Thanks, Mayor. And I'm Sean Mahar, Assistant Commissioner of Public Affairs for DEC. And I'll pass out copies. I'm gonna take one, pass on, and leave some here for folks too. Our proposal for what we're calling the Hoosick Area Community Participation Work Group. As Kirby and Larissa stated, one of the big things we heard in the TANA is obviously encouraging better dialogue and information flow about the ongoing cleanup efforts and everything that's underway here in the community, and making sure that we're reaching out to everyone here in the village and town to keep them informed and engaged. So what we did was obviously work throughout the summer to come up with a good proposal that we obviously want to present to you and present to town last night, and we're going to be putting out tomorrow officially for a 30-day public comment period to make sure people have a chance to weigh in on this and make sure that we have put in place a good framework here for a community group moving forward. So recognizing that this isn't just the village's issue, it's both the village and the town, we're calling it the Hoosick Area Community Participation Working Group. And so we'll really provide that forum for a greater understanding in the community about what's going on, and providing residents more of an opportunity to get involved and engaged and help drive the process forward. So I won't read through this word for word, but obviously you can see we have the purpose section, which really outlines our thoughts on what this group would be focused on. And again, in creating this, we looked around the state at other similar Superfund sites or areas where you had both the federal, state, and multiple local jurisdictions involved in a Superfund process. And one of the model programs that we found was the Onondaga Lake cleanup community group that was formed around that Superfund site and that ongoing cleanup. And that, for most of the people we talked to, really provided a strong framework. And we built this proposal around the way that they were formed. So really we look at the role of this community participation working group as being a voluntary and self-governing body. It would be independent. It's not going to be a state-run entity, but what we want to do is hire a facilitator, and we've been working with the companies to get them to pay for a third-party facilitator that will help this group come together and form themselves, and then also develop the process by which they will govern themselves through development of bylaws and setting in place the times and frequency and the process to move this community group forward. We're working now, we want to get this out obviously for public comment while we work to finalize and line up a third-party facilitator. And once we take comments and make any changes to this, we really want to hit the ground running with the facilitator and the community. In addition to the facilitator, the membership of this, again, being volunteers, we're looking to get interested citizens, community business leaders, public officials, and other local stakeholders who want to be involved in this to help shape the agenda moving forward. Interested members will submit resumes to the facilitator for consideration of appointment to the community participation working group, and those resumes will be vetted and reviewed by the facilitator in consultation with the town and village leadership and the state as well. And what we intend to do is have these, the community meetings open to the public, so even if someone is not on the community participation working group, they can still come to all the meetings and participate and hear and help shape the agenda moving forward. So we also outline here, just again, working off of what was in the Onondaga Lake model, some of the key things that the facilitator will work with the group to do, or some guiding principles that we offer here. Through setting up the bylaws which will govern officers, subcommittees, topic-specific community working groups, attendance, quorum, all the various nuts and bolts things that we have to do when we form a group like this. Again, we want this to be independent and voluntary, but obviously we, DEC, DOH, EPA will still be involved. We obviously want to work with the working group to come and present at meetings when they want us to, or provide any sort of technical assistance that the working group will need as it begins its work. So like I said, we spent some time on this, wanted to obviously present this to you tonight. Tomorrow, like I said, we'll begin the full 30-day public comment period. We're happy to come back and meet with any of the village board members as well to discuss this further, but happy to take any questions or comments now from anyone on this.
Board first, anyone have any questions? I have a few, but I'll give you guys a shot first.
What's the proposed timing for kicking this off?
Sure, so tomorrow we'll start the 30-day public comment period, which will end on October 12th. And then from there, depending on the comments we get, we want to finalize it with you pretty quickly and then start the process. We're still working with the companies to finish the work plan for the work the facilitator would do, and that will guide the funding that we get to support the hiring of that. We want to do that concurrently while this review is going on. So our goal is to really hit the ground running with this as soon as we can after the public comment period's over.
In terms of a facilitator, what are you looking for in a background of someone who's going to facilitate a group like this?
Sure. Sue, do you want to speak to that a little bit more?
Yeah, so we're looking for someone that has experience in creating a community group and has ability to understand what are the things that are most important to facilitate getting this group together, creating it such that they can be self-sufficient going forward. And so some of the facilitator is really just somebody to guide this group, to hear from the group and to kind of guide them as to, okay, well, you still need to do this, you need to have a chair, how do you want to have the terms, what are the other bylaws that you might have, so that the group will have some rules to go by and will understand what their objectives are, and then at some point in time, the facilitator might help initially with getting meeting rooms or setting up other venues and being a liaison initially with the state and EPA, but we're hoping that what will happen is that the need for the facilitator will go away, and this community group will be self-sustaining, and there'll be people on that group that will take over those responsibilities.
So tying that back into EPA's and the recommendations here, is there going to be some sort of funding to provide some sort of technical expertise to help bridge the language for everyone in the community group with some of the higher sciencey type things that are going to come out of all the dealings with not just the PFOA health concerns, but handling all of the data from all the various sites. Is that something that's been discussed, or?
Yeah, I mean, that's certainly something that we can talk a little bit more about too, and I can't speak for the state or their resources, but as I think you may know, the EPA has something called the Technical Assistance Grant. But I think, as you also know, one of the limitations that we have here is the federally listed site is the McCaffrey Street. So should we, if there was a technical assistance grant, it would be rather narrowly focused, whereas the state, being involved in a much broader range of all of the other investigations that are going on, they can certainly speak to what other resources they may have available to assist. But once the group gets together, we'd be happy to come and discuss that and what resources are available on our end, and I assume they'd be able to do that as well.
So this group creates a really good aggregate of all the sites instead of being limited to one, and it also, just from my initial perspective, creates a bridge for local people who live here, who are affected directly, and local elected people to work more closely together. So it's another bridge there. It seems like this is actually a lot more beneficial to the community than just being focused on the one site, correct? So
Correct.
this is packaged as a much better aggregate.
Yeah, and that's why we structured it the way we did, and took the approach of looking at other model areas where similar type of, federal and state jurisdictions crossing multiple communities, covering multiple sites, worked well together. And I think one of the things I want to focus on too is, we really want to work with the community group and have them tell us, the frequency with which to have meetings or how to get the information out in the best ways, so that we're really hitting the broadest cross-section of the community as possible. Recognizing how rural and dispersed a lot of the town is, we want to make sure that we're taking every step and opportunity to get the information out to people, and we hope this community group can really help us identify those strategies.
So public comment is open starting tomorrow for 30 days on this plan, so people can comment on what they like or don't like on this plan.
Yep.
And you'll take that into the final plan.
Yep.
You mentioned before that there's been discussions with the companies about funding for this.
Yep.
Has anything tangible come out of that?
Yeah, I think we're working on the work plan right now.
Okay.
We have an agreement from them to finance a facilitator for this, and we're just working out the details.
Great.
And then ultimately too, Mayor, to your point, we'll put this out most likely for an RFP, or we're working through the process of how we would bring on the facilitator. But if anyone has any ideas or recommendations of who would fit that role well, that is a good independent person who has experience with these, we'd be happy to take them.
Okay.
No, go ahead, Kevin.
In the last paragraph, conflict of interest, would somebody that has a lawsuit pending against St. Cobain be eligible to be on the committee or not?
Well, that again, these guiding principles section is typically something you would have in bylaws for a committee like this. So conflict of interest is one of those provisions that the community working group with the facilitator is gonna have to work on. So this is a suggestion, and they can flesh out the specific language in here for the conflict of interest policy that they want to adhere to.
Under membership, it says that the interested members shall submit resumes to the facilitator for consideration, and members will be appointed by the town and the village. Is that full boards, or are we coming up with a few people between the both of us to look at that stuff? Because you probably have to have a joint meeting of both boards if we were gonna do something like that to
Or is
appoint
it a
people.
representative from village, representatives
Right.
from town?
Right,
Were the-
do
yeah,
we
good
know
question.
what we're going with here, or?
That's a good point. I think we'd be happy to work with you on what's gonna work best for that. What we wanted to do with this is obviously, this is going to be a community-based group, getting community people here, local people that are, most impacted by this to step up and be a part of it. But recognizing that this facilitator is gonna be an independent person who's probably not rooted in this community, we wanted to have some interplay with both the town and the village to help make sure that the people who are coming on board are truly representative of the types of people that you would wanna see on this committee. So having a role for the town and village to play in this, whether it be just the mayor and the supervisor, or if there are board members that want, we can definitely flesh this out as we work through the comment period.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. And I know, Kevin, I think your point is fair, but I would hate to see someone not be allowed to do this just because they have a personal lawsuit against the companies.
But it may come to voting, right? That might be the caveat in there.
And that's what we'll have
Which,
to,
yeah,
when we get
yeah.
to the bylaws, it'll be interesting to see how those details work out, but.
I wasn't against it, I was just
It was
curious.
a good question,
Yeah.
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 I think a lot of people would wanna know that too, because a lot of people who are following this may have suits against it. More power to 'em. Okay.
Yeah.
Anyone else out there have any questions? Yes.
Yeah, define what the Hoosick area is. How
Sure.
big is it? How small is it?
Pretty much we looked at the footprint of the town and the village, so it's
So
really
it's
just
just a village.
town of Hoosick.
No, town and village,
Oh,
town and
town
village.
and village.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Anyone else have any questions? Alright,
And again, there's copies of the proposal up here too, so feel free to grab it.
yeah, you can come up at any time and grab them if you want, you don't have to wait, please.
And with regard to comments, I'll have an email blast that goes out tomorrow on it.
Okay.
You can submit it through email to hfcomments@dec.ny.gov.
We'll make sure, we'll talk tomorrow and make sure it gets up on the Facebook and on the website.
Great.
I just said the Facebook, oh my
On
gosh.
Facebook. It's all good.
It's a technology thing, sorry. The Facebook.
So one of the
On
other
the
things
interweb.
that we obviously heard, and Kirby touched on this too, was information flow and trying to create a more one-stop shopping website for all the various entities working on this as well. So I'll have Gary on the
Yeah, I've got some stuff to share on that with you, so I'm gonna pass this around. By way of introduction, there's one for each of the table here. By way of introduction, I'm Gary Holmes, I'm Sean Peter at DOHN, so the Assistant Commissioner for Public Affairs. One of the discussions that we've had, kind of concurrent with this process, but also discussions we've had with the mayor and other trustees, both here and in the town, is creating a one-stop shopping website with all relevant and pertinent information. Now, a lot of the information that's out there regarding the response in this community does already exist on the DEC website and the DOH website. But we'd be the first to admit that there's also a lot of other information on both of those sites there, and oftentimes it might be difficult to track down specifically what you're looking for. So the spirit here, and I caution, and I'll leave a bunch of other copies as well, is that, we're in draft phase. We're in a process here where we're trying to just create something that is simple and user-friendly and easy to understand. The concept you'll see here is kind of built off of what looks like an iPhone, almost kind of an app. You click on it, you click through. The key here would be identifying what we think, and we have some metrics to suggest what folks in the community are visiting most often. And those are the areas that we'll highlight here. But very much a work in progress and very much open to feedback, all with a goal, as Sean had mentioned. This should complement, continue to make sure that there's strong communication for those who are interested in the response. As the community work group is up and running, we anticipate that there'll be updates there, there'll be opportunities to promote meetings, there will be events that are associated with that. This will also be a good forum or an opportunity or platform to be able to promote that. So it's very much in the, in a draft phase or in conceptual phase here, but definitely happy to receive feedback from folks as this process moves forward. And happy to take any questions in terms of what this community thinks it should or shouldn't be, or if there are any questions in terms of how that process works. Yes.
I do have a question
Sure.
regarding the town and village in this facilitator position. Is that gonna be an avenue where we will get some access to understanding what federal and state grants are available to help with some of this cleanup, or phase 2 of whatever the process ends up being? That, we're gonna get some direction as where's the money and how do we find it?
Yeah, we discussed that a little bit earlier in the meeting too. Obviously, as the group forms, EPA does have some technical assistance grants that are limited to the one
Just
federal.
not technical, I'm talking cleanup.
Cleanup, wait, what do you mean then?
In some of these sites, if we go and find and uncover additional issues.
Do you mean for a group to clean up or village to clean up?
You're talking about just
Probably
remediation.
the village, yeah.
So we wouldn't be involved in remediation, it would be state and federal
Yeah,
agencies
we-
or
we've got
companies.
The companies
Yeah.
under the consent orders are requiring them to do the
They
cleanup,
are,
so
okay.
anything that's found, we would go and hold them accountable for cleaning it up.
Got it, so you are the police force.
Yeah.
Okay.
I know that, we've had some conversations about sort of forming this site, and I know that Brian and I have gotten some web design background, and I don't know if we would call us snobbish about websites. Would you call us snobbish? But we're
Petty.
Geeky.
all of the above. All of the above. No one else, please start anywhere out. So we're eager to keep working on this and making sure this is something that works for everybody. But I like this as in its initial phase.
Yeah, I think also that you've simplified into the categories where info is that's important.
For me, it's the breakdown of each category
Yeah.
and how it works. But that's the meat.
But even beyond that too, I mean, feedback, I think we'll share more feedback too. I also, because there are some cases where, for example, Poet versus Municipal Supply, where they're very separate town-village issues, or Petersburg, where maybe there's also a secondary, do you want info on Hoosick, Petersburg, or town, or all?
Yeah, I mean, I anticipate as we start to, really kind of dig into this process there, we'll come up with some of that, right? I mean, it's, again, if you look at each of, you dive into DEC site or dive into DOH's site, a lot of that exists. It's about really taking that information, streamlining it, making sure that it's also presented in a way, I look to the trustees and some of the members of the community here who have really done a tremendous job in terms of educating themselves on the issue, but that's not everybody as well. There may be people who are new to the community or new to the issue, and we need to make sure that we're serving everybody in that. So there's a lot of discussion will be had in terms of making sure that presentation, fits the bill for all. But totally, receptive to feedback on that. We bring this here tonight not as this is what we're doing, we hope you like it. This is a start in a process and certainly a commitment that we agree that this is something that would be beneficial to the community, make it a little bit easier to find what you're looking for.
Also, one thing I don't see right away, I know there's contact info on the front page, but as a category, I don't know how to phrase it, but there are persistent myths out there. For example, you look at the TANA, again, people questioning sediment in the pipes, which it's been flushed. I think where there's an area where some of those myths could be answered, but also FAQ, but also I think one of the reasons that one is persistent and others in here I use as an example is that if we actually taken a cross section of a pipe from here, cut it, tested the sediment, we know there's nothing in it, but just to say, hey, we actually grabbed a pipe, we did it, here's the evidence. I think some of the persistent myths recur, or people falsely claiming that the water is not safe to drink, and it is, the filtration works. I think we need more evidence to help with that stuff.
I think the other process here too, Brian, is that, what you see here is, homepage, but what is it, what are we doing with the click-through? And how do you advance that discussion too? Because I think some of the productive discussions we've had between DOH and DEC in terms of getting to this point is there's still value to some of the initial information if you're brand new to it, but also there's, this community has followed it so closely that we have to be able to provide that or kind of articulate that process. So I think that there are some things there that do apply. The other thing that we found here too is just an exercise when DOH and DEC have been talking about it, there's a lot of overlap in a lot of the issues that we work on here in the community, and I think that sometimes, and I know from the meetings that I've been to, somebody will ask me a question that they assume might be a DOH question, and it isn't that it necessarily isn't something, but it's more actually under DEC's purview. So what we're trying to do in some of those cases where there's overlapping efforts, figuring out where best it fits, so that there's consistency in terms of that message for the user. And so some of that is just a matter of housekeeping and bringing two websites together in one, which is a process that we're happy to undertake, and we'll certainly look for guidance on preparing. So this is the first, kind of first crack at presenting something, but it's certainly more.
One other note too on the, you mentioned too, sometimes PS, DOH, DEC, even within each agency, I know people come up maybe to Sean and be like, air quality question, and you're like, well, we have air quality people. I think a small explanation of the structure of both agencies so people understand just because somebody works there doesn't mean they're an expert in every single thing environmental or every single thing with health, that there are specific experts who can answer or try to answer best they can your question.
It's funny, these are huge agencies, and I think that I sometimes find myself looking for that as well.
So put it in a small, color in the lines version for me.
I'm happy to leave, like I said, I've got a bunch of copies here that I'll leave up front as well, just for, if it prompts a thought or a suggestion there. I mean, Mayor Allen and Brian, we talked a lot about how best to move that forward. If people are more comfortable reaching out to you in terms of, I think this is a good, let me know, and we can certainly discuss another time where we can dive into those.
Yep, and was just
That's a good
writing
question, though.
here about finding out when drilling is gonna happen and where throughout the village, and that makes
All the
total
drilling
sense.
that they've done, when do we find out what's down there?
Oh, in terms of data?
Yeah, I think, so a lot of people notice the test wells everywhere, to your point, and
It's
right,
like
what's,
200 feet.
what's there?
What is there? When do we find out?
Depends on the investigation, do you,
You wanna wrap your stuff up and then I'll
he's
give
gonna
kind of a
summarize.
Yeah, I think
rundown.
that, I think that more or less
Recycling?
covers, unless there are other questions there, that's.
So does anyone have any other questions, pertaining to this, this material here, DEC, DOH, EPA, on anything that's been discussed thus far?
You gotta do any soil sampling? I mean, people have watered their lawn for years with this PFOA water, and it's gotta be in the soil somewhere. Growing vegetables,
Update, right?
He's gonna give us an update on the various investigations that are happening right now, but, the answer is yes, it's been done.
Good.
Yeah. Yes.
Any measurement in air sampling?
He's gonna give us some updates on that. That's a more complicated issue, but once he finishes, bring that up, please, again. You wanna take it?
Sure. Mayor, before I leave,
Yeah.
Folks will notice on the cover page here, and an astute reporter pointed this out to me, but a fixture in your community apparently has been Lucas Willard here from WAMC. And he noticed that he was front and center in the photograph that we used here, and he might be wearing the same shirt. Not that I wanna-
No, he does work for public radio,
Yeah.
they don't pay you a lot, right?
Media's right in the front. 'Cause
Media's
we
tough,
care
we
about
work,
media here.
we suffer, and Ben still suffers.
Unlike some other agencies.
Thanks for pointing that out.
Who are the two people at the end of the table?
Not supposed to be part of it.
I know, they're gone.
Cut us off.
Anyway, we appreciate your time. We're obviously always here for you if you do have other questions.
Thank you, Larissa.
Happy to,
Thank you.
chat with anyone else.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you,
Thank
Kirby.
you.
Thank you, guys. I don't
have to run,
So,
but,
Thanks for offering though.
alright, all set?
yep.
Thanks, everybody.
So I think a lot of the questions, I don't wanna take up a lot of the board meeting time. A lot of the questions that I think I'm hearing have to do with the Superfund process. And some information that's being requested about specific sites, but, I mean, there's a lot of phases to the Superfund process. We have, 3 significant threat sites in the village. We have, 4 potential sites, around town. Each one of these sites is in kind of a different phase of investigation. We have a
Can you
site
just clarify, those
characterization.
are New York State designated
Those are
Superfund,
New
which is
York.
different than the
Yep.
one federal, just
That's-
so
yes.
people know that,
Thanks
sorry.
for clarifying that.
Yeah.
We do have one NPL site which overlaps with the state Superfund site.
Yeah.
So, like I say, all those sites are in different phases of investigation. There are some that are about to enter an interim remedial phase, which is where we actually do start putting shovels in the ground or start addressing some of the contamination before we get to a final remedy. So, the answer to some of those specific questions can be complicated because it depends on which site you're asking about and it depends on what phase that site's in. But I just kind of wanted to go through some of the more recent developments on some of the projects that we're working on in and around the village. I'll start with the McCaffrey Street site, which is the NPL/State Superfund site. We very recently received an interim remedial measure work plan, which is a pathway for us to start addressing the contamination in the groundwater at the McCaffrey Street site. So that's a document that DEC is reviewing at this time. These reviews can take a couple months. This one's fairly complex, so I don't want to throw a definite time frame out there, but several months will be, certainly wouldn't be out of line for that document. We have discussed and are working with EPA on some stack sampling tasks. And that's with the EPA Office of Research and Development. We don't have a time for when we're actually gonna mobilize and make that happen. There's significant technical challenges to that aspect, but we recognize that the community's been asking about it. We wanna get those data, we wanna be able to have those results, and when we do, hopefully sometime next year. It's not a quick process, but those data will be up and will be made available. We're working on another round of groundwater sampling. We have had submitted to us another work plan for actual soil sampling, which will expand the number of samples that are taken around the plant. It'll include some drip line samples, so that's kind of a line of evidence to compounds that were emitted from the facility may have ended up on the roof and then been washed off the roof over time and gotten on the soil. So that's kind of a local air depositional thing that we're looking at. That will be happening over the next 6 months or so. And associate the final task I want to discuss with McCaffrey Street is we are actively engaged in the supplemental alternative water supply investigation. You may have seen guys in rain suits yesterday coming out of the Wysocki farm. I did. So we have drill rigs out there. We're evaluating that aquifer, looking at the volume of water that's available, the quality, all those aspects. So that's the one McCaffrey Street site. So just that one site, there's a fair amount of activities going on. Liberty Street, not quite as active. Really the only thing that's really happened in the recent, or that's going to happen in the near future is some of that downspout or roofline sampling that I was talking about that we're doing with McCaffrey. We're gonna do it at Liberty as well. So that'll give us a little bit of hint as to what may have been discharged through the air historically, we hope. Right here in the center of the village, John Street, that's another pretty active site. We had, Barbara was out there today. They're doing evaluations of the actual bedrock formation at this point, looking to determine if the PFAS compounds got into the bedrock, where it may have gone. So that's kind of a valuable bit of information to see where, if we know that it's down there, we want to know where it's going. Also this week, or recently, we did some vapor intrusion screening on some of the houses in the area. Not us directly, the companies have their contractor out there actually with a meter looking for the chlorinated volatile solvent gases that might be getting into houses. That was something that both DOH and DEC was asking the companies to do. We are doing some additional soil sampling throughout September and October in and around that site. Those are from the surface down to bedrock, so that'll capture the full soil horizon. And I guess just to reiterate, John Street, that is our third significant threat site. So the three significant threat sites are McCaffrey Street, Liberty Street, and John Street. So those are all what we call Class 2 significant threat sites. The P sites, or potential sites, that's where we're in the site characterization phase. The first one that I'll discuss briefly is the oak materials over on River Road, so over on the other side of the river. Not too much has been going on there, but we do expect an additional scope of work to look at some of the chlorinated compounds that are over at that site. We're seeing some PFAS, but it doesn't, it's not like what we were expecting to see. So we're gonna make a decision when we get the chlorinated data back as to whether that becomes a significant threat site or not. We expect that'll happen, early next year sometime, I would think, a reasonable time frame. Let's see, Oak Mitsui on First Street, that's also a P site, that's in the site characterization phase, we've looked at the soil. Coming up, we're gonna be looking at groundwater issues. We really haven't seen too much in the soil related to PFAS. We did do soil removal at the site to get rid of some other metals contamination. But again, that will also, once we get all the data, we'll look at whether that is gonna be a significant threat site or not. And finally, the Allied Signal over on Mechanic Street, that's also a P site characterization phase. And that one, we just got a work plan in to really do the site characterization, so we really don't have data for that site. The landfill?
Yeah.
The landfill, we've essentially completed the site characterization, that's a P site as well. We have those data, the report's being finalized, we expect sometime in the fall. And I think we've discussed some of the groundwater numbers with you on the phone. So that report will be coming out at that point. There's gonna be some discussions about how to move that project forward, probably with the village.
And one thing I forgot to mention earlier is that every month we have a conference call with DEC, DOH, EPA, County Health, Rich is on, and myself, just getting updates on all the things that are going on. Any questions that I get from the community, I bring to that forum, and it's really helped sort of stay informed. But I wanted him to come and just explain these, what's going on in a sort of a generic way, because I hear about it on a monthly basis, but we're not all always hearing everyone else about where things are at and how long these processes take. Board, do you guys have any questions?
And maybe I'm happy to take questions. Part of the community outreach, we have done a pretty extensive update to our website. You'll notice some new maps, some new figures. We've made several documents available. There is a map of the village and immediately surrounding area. All the sites are on that map. You can click on the site, it'll drop you down to the section of the page that has the information about that. There's actually a link directly to our internal database, information, site description, owners, contact information. All those links are, I think, much easier, much more easily accessible.
Can you write a picture that doesn't look cloudy and like doomsday?
No.
Downtown.
Oh.
I'm like, oh, that's.
If you can provide one, we'll be glad to.
Absolutely.
Vanessa, you're up.
Yes,
Got it.
Vanessa's on
We'll
it.
find a
All
happy
right.
one.
I haven't had a chance to look through this, but I do see quickly Gen X. That's great. I know that's been a question. I know a lot of people. The site I get the most questions about from people would be Oak Mitsui site. Are you, and I forgive me if it's here, first time I'm looking at this part, is there data there beyond any PFOA, PFAS, anything? Because there's a lot of questions I think about that site.
Yep.
Okay, so people could find a lot of stuff they might be.
I don't think there's a lot available right now.
Okay.
Just because of the phase that it's in.
I feel like you had unverified data on that.
Well, they did the building demolition recently.
Yeah.
We've done a significant soil removal due to copper sulfate or some of the metals contamination. We've done overburden. I think Barbara wants to pipe in here with some information.
I was just gonna say, we have not posted unvalidated data, but the validated data that's site specific for Liberty and for McCaffrey is available.
Okay.
That Oak Mitsui site also had an MGP, a manufactured gas plant on it, which often are sources of significant contamination. We have preliminarily looked at that. I don't think we've fully characterized it. But initially, it doesn't seem like there's much in the way of MGP waste on that site. So,
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
It's a little surprising.
Like, a couple of questions. The stack sampling tests, what are you looking for right now?
That is one of those questions I would have to refer to our air people. They're the ones that are working with EPA to formalize that scope.
The reason I ask, of course, is that historically, you would have been looking for PFOA.
Right.
least as far as we understand, the use of that has ceased.
Right.
Have you looked at the 1997 testing that was done by CT Mail for what was then Furon at McCaffrey Street?
I personally have not.
Okay, I mean, I assume the department's aware of that.
That would probably be a question for our air folks.
Okay, and how about the 2003 sampling that Saint-Gobain did at a similar facility in Shannon, Ireland? Have you looked at that?
Again, I have not.
Okay. The interim remedial measure, could you broadly describe what that is all about at this point?
For McCaffrey Street?
Yes.
Yeah. So McCaffrey Street is the facility that is most directly impacting the village well field. There's groundwater contamination on the McCaffrey Street site and on the well field. What we want to do is keep additional PFAS, PFOA, from migrating off McCaffrey towards the well field. So what we're going to do is install a couple, well, the design at this point, the draft design, indicates installing 2 recovery wells to pump the groundwater. So we have hydraulic containment that will keep the groundwater on the McCaffrey Street site from migrating further towards the well field.
Can we get a copy of whatever they've given you?
Of the,
That'll be available for public comment in the future.
Well, yeah, but as, on behalf of the village, you know, which has particular interest here, we would like to see a copy of whatever that work plan is. I'm not gonna get into a, you know, debate about that right now, but now we'll follow up with a letter to department council on that, but we would like to see that. I guess, not to get hyper-technical on you, but the concept of that kind of recovery well, I've seen that used in situations where you're looking at, let's say, more conventional contaminants, you know, chlorinated solvents, petroleum hydrocarbons. Has that approach been employed with these kinds of chemicals, you know?
well, I think what you're getting at is whether the chemicals are diffusing or they're flowing with the groundwater.
Well, it's part of it, but I mean, it would seem that in order to reach a conclusion as to the efficacy of that, you'd have to have some idea as to the source areas, wouldn't you?
We know that the groundwater is flowing from McCaffrey towards the well field. We want to keep that contaminated groundwater from getting, you know, from getting even closer to the wells. Or continuing to flow towards it.
Apropos of that, and I know this is something I've raised with the department in meetings in the past, there was the 2016 questionnaire that Saint-Gobain returned to the department, in which it said yes to the question of whether it had disposed of PFOA materials on the plant site. And I'm wondering whether there's been any follow-up with the company on those answers as to what those locations were and what the quantities were and when that all occurred.
I'll take that back and discuss it with the staff or the attorneys who may have had those discussions.
It just seems that as someone who's been involved in this stuff for a long time, that kind of specific inquiry might facilitate things a bit as opposed to treating all of this on sort of a broader, more abstract level. Okay. I could probably, you know, we could probably engage in questions on this for hours, but that's a good start.
Okay.
We're always happy to meet with Dave to talk about this more too.
Thank you. Other Dave?
Just a question, you're gonna be installing 2 wellheads on McCaffrey Street.
Correct.
Where are you discharging them?
They're gonna be treated, and that's part of the design. We're evaluating, piping the treated water, off-site through a speedies equivalency.
Frac tanks and GACs?
No, they'd be inline treated with the GAC, yeah.
There are some other questions? Yes.
At the July 22nd meeting, when you made the presentation over there to the village board and the rest of us, which was a very nice presentation, you stated that you were going off-site from McCaffrey Street and Liberty Street. What triggered that?
Going off-site for the soil?
Well, you mentioned that you had done on-site testing and that you had expanded that to off-site testing, and you had boundaries. So what triggered that?
Well, so part of the Superfund process is determining nature and extent of contamination. If we haven't seen the end of the contamination on site, we have to go off-site.
Well,
So-
what testing did you have that led you to the conclusion you needed to go off-site?
That would be the soil data from the site characterizations in the RI that we've been working on.
And the data summary from the Caprese and Liberty Streets are on our website for review if you'd
Yep,
like
and,
to.
and how did you determine the boundaries for off-site?
It's really just the property line.
No,
On-site.
off-site.
Well,
Well, you keep going until you.
So you've done additional testing off-site.
that's
Oh, yeah.
work coming up.
My question is you've gone off-site and you determined boundaries of a particular distance, right?
Right.
How did you make that determination? What was in the metrics that said, we need to go this far?
Sometimes it would actually just be where is the next available sampling location? You know, is there a residential property that would allow us to get on to take a sample from that property? Is there a municipal park or something? Is there something in the roadway, you know, where there's a DOT easement or something? There's not a hard and fast rule. Sometimes if we have a location that might be a background location with non-detect, we would split the distance and then keep splitting the distance to determine what the actual extent is.
So, and at that time, I said you probably didn't have your hands around the full
We
problem.
don't have our hands fully around the problem.
Only because it really is probably still early in the investigation part.
It is.
Particularly at Liberty Street, and who knows where it's gonna be at the landfill. So there must have been some level or some concentration that you look at to say, I'm going to go the next step further.
Mainly it's just based on detections, so if you take samples and you get detections of a contaminant, then you keep moving
So,
on until you
so
find.
you move to,
detections.
so you move to zero.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, and we always need to figure out what the background is. You know, background for a human-produced chemical should be zero.
Right.
We don't know if that's gonna be the case. It might be 1, it might be 0.5, but that's part of this whole process, part of the whole study.
So
Is looking at background and figuring out, okay, that's background. Now we're gonna come back closer to the site.
Yep, so.
Or step out.
Once you get out to private property and you identify that there is contamination on that site, how do you?
On the private property.
On the private property, how do you handle that?
It's likely gonna be case by case. There are sites that are not PFAS sites, but they're arsenic or metal sites that were dispersed through the air, through the stacks. And we are actually going to each homeowner and removing soil from properties and replacing it with clean soil. That's one instance.
But again, I mean, what we did early on was identify the potential exposure pathways that people can be exposed to these chemicals. Most of the groundwater analyses that we do in your everyday course of living in this community, you're not coming in contact with that. And we go out and drill these wells to find out the nature and extent of that groundwater contamination plume. That's really gonna drive what we do. If, as Ian was saying, if we find soil contamination on a property and we evaluate this potential for an exposure pathway, we immediately go in and we'll require cleanups depending on what's there and the use of the land where it's found and what's happening. It's really, like I said, a case-by-case basis, but first and foremost in our mind is protecting the public from being exposed to any of this stuff.
And just to follow up on the soil testing question, to date, the soils that we've tested in residential property is not at any level that precludes its continued use as a residential property for playing or gardening. So we haven't seen any levels on any residential properties that, with the data we have to date, that would preclude anybody from continuing to use their properties as they have been.
What level do you consider a safe level for that?
The DOH has a preliminary level of 140 ppbs of PFOA.
Moving forward, the residents impacted most are the ones on the left side of Cary Avenue. Will there be any relief for those people during this whole I mean, I assume it's gonna go on for years and years, the mediation process.
Impacted,
By.
They're the ones closest to the plant, so they're gonna have probably the highest readings
okay.
Truck traffic.
residentially.
They're-
Yeah, not a question I have an answer for, sorry.
And we can take that back, obviously, with our lawyers, and I mean, there's other processes that factor in our goal, and, you know, these are really the frontline remediation experts who analyze the data and require the companies to go in and do the cleanup plans. Outside of that, we've got a team of lawyers who work on everything else with the consent order, and we'd be happy to talk to anyone about it specifically.
I also know one of the residents had a well drilled on his property and wasn't notified as well. Would that be?
That
should not have ever happened.
No.
No, every well that goes on a property, the private property would
Would have to
be,
give written consent?
would have to have given written consent, or, there are cases where there absolutely we need to be on that property. The department does have the ability to, go on this property, but there's always notification. It's not that we would ever, at least the DEC, and we would always go on the property after we've notified them exactly when they're gonna be, when we're gonna be there, and what's gonna actually happen. And afterwards, the area is, if there's any ruts or anything, will be repaired. So if that actually did occur, then,
Let us know.
then
We can
please
look
let
into
us know, because that should never have occurred.
You can always get the information from me and I'll get it to them.
Okay.
Lorene?
I've had this question asked of me 100 times, if not more in the last year, from residents that are blocks within Caffrey Street. Do you know what's coming out of those stacks right now, coming down on our lawns as we speak?
We don't have any of those data at this time.
Why not?
Well, no, I mean, we've been working with the mayor to have our air quality experts come in and talk about the various
Because
permit
it's been a long
regulations
time
and
now.
plants.
And people that living around here, or, within blocks, knowing how this spread in the first place.
Right.
We know C8 isn't used anymore, but we know C6s, we know possibly Gen X's, and any other chemicals I talked to you guys about.
Right. So that's the, stack testing that I talked about with McCaffrey Street, that we're working with EPA on, because they have the equipment and the analytical, instruments to run those analyses. And we're trying to work out, it's not an easy, analysis to do, and it's not an easy mobilization, it's difficult to get people up there.
Can I rephrase how she's asking this? Because one of the things, I forget who was in the meeting, was what's coming out with a representative of the company who said it's on file with the state. That was the answer I got repeatedly. It's on file with the state. So I looked up and saw, wait, the permit is to discharge by incineration at Liberty Street. There's only 3 listed. I said, well, what's in the rubberized mat smell? It's on file with the state. It's the only answer I'd get. It's over a year ago. So is it a matter of the companies being bellicose and not saying, we're not telling you it's in the rubberized mat smell, and you guys have to now do investigation to find out? Is that part of the obstacle?
I don't wanna misspeak, because air speak is very technical when it comes to, air regulation. So what I do wanna do is get our air folks in here at one of your next meetings, or even when we plan the next community meeting, have a very specific air table where we can answer all those questions. And actually, they produced a summary and they're ready to come in, and just, we've got a few other things here that, preclude us from doing that, but pursuant to their air facility permit that they have to report to us all the levels of emissions, so we'll work to get them.
But only regulated.
What's that?
But only regulated emissions?
Yeah, the specific emissions.
So the unregulated stuff we're back at square one with?
What the state's decided to regulate.
You can talk to our air experts on that, about what they can sample for, and that's why with EPA, with the testing that Ian's talking about, with looking at Gen X and other, affluent compounds, they have the ability to test analytically for that. But the air regulations in the state speak specifically to certain criteria pollutants that they test for.
Hasn't the plastic already been
Yes.
So how is it
You should see what they're finding in Merrimack.
So how is it they could be tested down in Petersburg, which would be a low impact area compared to Hoosick Falls?
I'm not sure that it is a low impact area compared to Hoosick Falls, just based on some of the historic literature and the volume of material that was used, but,
When I say
the short answer is,
high impact is population.
right.
Yeah, the short answer is we'll take this back to our folks and get them here at this meeting and have a conversation with them.
The couple of things I picked up on the last call were that some folks in EPA who were involved in the North Carolina situation are also involved in designing and getting the air tests ready for us. And that I had been looking through a lot of the Merrimack, New Hampshire data, but what our facility does here compared to what they do there is very different. And they had something at like, was it like 11 towers? 13 that they're emitting from, and those towers we haven't even had here for many years. So I know their processes, and I wasn't aware of this until they walked me through this, is a lot different than ours. But the point is obviously, we've always been wondering what's coming out of the air. I thought Merrimack had air samples done, but they had actually had, I think, residue in the stacks done. It wasn't actually air samples, but.
Provided she's right, Emily told me they found Gen X at Taconic.
Yes.
It's unregulated, so.
But so far, we haven't found any Gen X here.
In the water.
And in the, we done soil?
I haven't seen the soil testing.
I'll ask about that.
Again, it's on the website, the genetic testing that we've done.
I know in the water there's been nothing. Yeah.
And,
Groundwater near the plant.
Again, I think we talked back in June or July about this too, but St. Cobain is putting new emissions controls on the rubber side of the plant, and that could be part of what we discuss next on that, because I know that they're going to be going in this fall to reduce some of the air quality emissions that were associated with that.
So when you say air quality emissions, you're talking about PFCs specific
No,
or just
on the rubber side
on
of
the
the
rubber
plant.
side?
And again, we'll have our air folks who are a lot more qualified than I am.
Well, I think, it's freaking more people out now after one of the summits, EPA announced, so I was watching it. We thought there were about 3,500 PFAs in that, and now there's 5,000 to 10,000.
Yeah.
How are we ever gonna,
Yeah.
and living next to
Right.
plants that use this stuff? I mean, put yourself in art, we need this data.
But
You know?
part of that problem is that they put the new emission controls down. When you go to do the testing for the new emissions, you're not gonna know what was been done for the last 5 years.
That's where the soil samples will
That's
come
where
in.
the soil samples are gonna,
But-
that line of evidence, historically, this is what's come out of the plant, we're seeing it in the soil.
But we'll get some air people here
Yeah.
next meeting. That would be great. 'Cause that's
Yep.
like they've said, that is the question
stay
that
overnight?
continues.
Thank
What's that?
Can they stay
And can they stay overnight and do tests when we smell
Can
stuff?
they stay overnight?
Well, we've been
I
monitoring.
went home
We've
from
been
the
getting
last
those.
meeting.
Well,
Alright.
you still have the phone number.
The
on
phone
your
number's on the
right?
website. If you
Yeah.
have if you notice a gross smell, call it and report it so we can.
Exactly,
Alright.
that's the type of data that we need to.
Thank you guys very much.
Thank
you all for
Thank
being
you
here.
guys.
Thank you again, EPA. With that, we are going to move on. Let me go through announcements and correspondence real fast. Yep. Do you have the rock block thank you? The thank you note from the Rock Block Community Picnic. There's a really nice thank you from the planning team regarding the Rock the Block event, which was, despite the weather, a very, very large success. And if we find that, I will pass it around to you guys to take a look at. Basket Bingo, October 4th, to be held at St. Mary's Academy. Doors open at 5:15, games begin at 6:30. To benefit the Immaculate Conception Parish. Admission $10, 18 regular games and door prizes, $5 with 3 special games. If anyone else wants to see this, have you guys seen this yet?
Yes.
Yeah.
Alright, it's up here if anyone wants to take a look at that. We had a request to hold a wedding ceremony in Wood Park on November 3rd. Do you have that request, Andy?
That's all the fun.
It was an over the phone request at 3 p.m. What is that? I'm assuming that's a Saturday. November 3rd is a Saturday.
Making an early departure.
Yep, thank you.
Good to see you, Dave.
Hey, Dave.
Thank you.
I don't know of anything scheduled in the park on the 3rd. If no one has a problem with that, I would welcome a motion to approve.
Second.
Bobby and second Craig, further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
The only question is, okay, so it's just the marriage, the service itself is taking place.
Oh, but not the reception, you mean?
Just wanna make sure there's nothing else.
Yes, yeah, can we get in touch with them and we'll, I guess, find out if there's any other needs they would have.
There is nothing else.
It's not just to do with their,
ceremony.
okay, alright, great, thank you, Ann. So the motion carries. There's an invitation, to attend the dedication of the Maple Grove Cemetery and the historic marker as a New York State historic landmark. Do we have that as well, or is that in my email? Let me bring that up in my email. I'll come back to that. I'll look for that in my email. People to be heard. There are a couple people who are going to talk first, and then I'll open it up to anyone else. Rebecca, you want to speak? Thank you.
Rebecca Humphrey, for those that don't know me. I would like to, I guess, plead with the village to possibly help make, I want to use the 2 bike trails because I bike on them, safer.
The Greenway.
Greenway, thank you. There's been a lot of instances lately, some I'm sure the public doesn't know about. What we as a community could do to get cameras, who would monitor them, set it up, whatever it needs to be done. I think it's a great resource for the community. I know I use it faithfully, but I have a lot of concerns with recent events, and I don't think it's getting any better. I don't think it's gonna work. So, if is there anything we can do as a community to push along, maybe cameras, patrolling, whatever?
Brian's one of the
Chair of the Greenway Committee.
Chair of the Greenway Committee. I was gonna say one of the members of Chair of the Greenway.
Yeah, actually, it's something we've discussed, and I know Chief and I have talked in fragments on that, but I do agree that we've discussed a few potential solutions. I think maybe we should just then make a definite appointment together just to sit down and come up with. I don't know if there's money still from the seized drug money that you have available for that or not. If not, we could look at other options.
Could it be a community fundraiser? Could it be?
Well, that I like. No, anything we can do to do that, without, I think, an open meeting talking about where they would be and how they'd be monitored, et cetera. I think, that we have discussed some options for that, but just for the sake of, I would be more than happy to talk, ideas and ways to raise money or to make that happen, absolutely.
And I know that the Greenway is one of the beautiful bright spots of our area, and a lot of people still don't even know about it. We've actually had conversations about the kind of video. Would it be like a trailhead one that would be motion sensitive, or would it be one that was constantly streaming and recording on a separate computer? Yeah, these are all really good points, and I think really important discussions to have.
And if I could, we try to go down per shift.
Yep.
Patrols are gonna drive it, so we try to get down there per shift. If there is something going on that we don't know about it, you need to contact us so we can respond to it. And a lot of times, there was 2 instances that occurred down there. We were able to find out who did the damage, and we were able to make the arrest. But it's gotta be brought to our attention so we can at least get to that process. On the trail cameras, we've spoken about that. I think if the Greenway can look at some grants, that'd be great. Worst case scenario, I think we can find the money. The biggest question that comes up is how do we monitor it?
I have a few, but again, I don't wanna,
Right. So that's
put the
something we
secret
are-
sauce out.
But I think right now, you've gotta, at least, if you're hearing of the damage or know of it, we may not know of it at that particular time, and you're right, someone may
Right,
not
and
just.
sometimes it's not damage, sometimes it's just things going on as you're running by, jogging by, biking by, walking by. I mean,
Activity is the.
there's activity going on,
Oh,
yes.
yeah, no, and I come across it when I've been on patrol down in there.
Yeah.
You try to move it on, or, they quickly walk on it. So, you have to,
we can leave earlier.
Short of that kind of activity, if there's any destructive damage that's being done, you need to bring that to our attention.
And just
Other
add
activity we'll deal with.
to add to, sorry, Chief, just the only thing, and this is in my Greenway report later, but one of the things we brought up at our last committee meeting is that we don't have as many people participating, we have some work that needs to be done there for resurfacing beyond that. And sometimes people aren't aware, or they are using it, but we want them to always feel safe there. I think one of the things we really need to look at is more volunteers, more people involved, more people down the Greenway checking it out daily, or, you know, where there's more people who have more say in what's going on, more ownership as a community. And it doesn't take a lot of work, so I'm signing you up. No, but I mean, you know, that's one of the things we wanna ask is more people to volunteer, get some new ideas in, and it's.
Right, and I'm not against that at all.
Yeah.
It's just, I won't go on there alone anymore just because of many incidences, and it's a beautiful place. It's great. I'd like to see it bigger. I'd like to see it connect so I don't have to ride through the grass, you know, to the connect thing. But, I mean, I'm assuming that you wouldn't expand it when there's so much destruction that keeps happening and problems with it, like, you know, I feel like we need to take care of what we have.
Well, it's kind of a two-part, yeah, take care of that, but also they're connecting it to other trails is important
Which
for
would be
its
wonderful.
future, yes. And I'm sorry you're experiencing an issue
it's-
where you don't feel confident going alone, and that's something we wanted to get.
But if there are cameras there, and
Yeah, that helps.
if whoever's doing it knows that the police are constantly responding, hopefully that would get that sort of stuff out of there.
You know,
And oddly, the areas that are closer to houses are always statistically on greenways more secure. People are always keeping an eye on it, but we do have some spots that get a little more remote. And those are the areas where,
Right. I mean, if we're down there
yeah,
and the bench is knocked over, we just pick it up. You know, I'm not gonna call the police every time the bench is over or somebody's knocked a tree down, but, you know.
Well, I'm gonna have to interrupt you on that, if you would.
Okay.
It's important that you do let us know about that, because.
I mean, we're
we
happy
had-
to, I just don't
Right,
wanna like
we
do
had-
that.
We had people whose car was spray painted over.
Right, I saw that recently,
And we
yeah.
went, we were gonna make the arrest. Some people didn't even call us. The individual brought us to their house and said, yeah, I did that house. And they just said, oh, I didn't think it was important. Well, it is important, so if you call us and say, hey, the bench was knocked over, at least we know about it. And if we do catch someone at that time, like the next day, at least he can.
Because of damage somewhere else, and that might be tied in.
It might all be tied in, so if you could please let
Yeah,
us
I'm happy
know.
to do that, I just didn't wanna
You're not
kinda
bothering.
bother you guys.
You're not bothering us.
Speed dial.
I'll just text the mayor.
Text the mayor.
and then he'll text it to
And he'll
me.
text it to me.
No change phone number, okay, got it.
So, it sounds like you would be the one that's heading this up?
Yeah.
So.
And so, like, would something be put out to community, like people, I know there's a meeting tomorrow night, which I can't attend.
No, so just cover that, then I keep, yes, LWRP is different, it's
Okay.
it's the waterfront development, the Greenway is an existing element of that bigger part of that.
Okay.
The next Greenway meeting is on the 26th here at 6:30.
Okay.
So it's Wednesday the 26th, if you're unable to make it, then let me know, and,
Or text the mayor.
yeah, or text the
September
mayor.
26th.
Yes, 6:30.
6:30.
Alright,
And that is where this could be discussed further? or
Absolutely.
the input, or whatever?
absolutely.
Yeah.
Okay,
It'll be passed on regardless.
thanks.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Rebecca.
and I will share that as well, absolutely.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Greg
Thank you.
Fox and
Yes.
company.
Thank you. I first want to apologize for last month, about, I know we were on the agenda. I did not realize the meeting got moved a week ahead of time.
It's alright.
There was some miscommunication. If everyone know, I'm Greg Fox. I am the president of the Hoosick area, Hoosick Amateur Radio Club. This is Mr. Tim Collier, the vice president, Dave Ramos, the treasurer, and Ted Vincent, our, treasurer. I just wanna get a brief thing of what we've been talking to the village board about. We are we are a club that has a bigger part in emergency communication is what we pretty much are. We have, our amateur radios have had communications with, Puerto Rico is the prime example, if you all remember Puerto Rico, got hit pretty hard, not too, last year, I don't remember, or earlier. Amateur radio was the only communication across the entire island because nothing was working, and back to the United States, as a prime example. We also do, communications during, 5Ks, bike events, we can do something like that, if anyone, if that's something people might need, you know. But the key factor here in our community is the terrain is not, a lot of hills. And how I'm gonna explain this before I turn it over to Ted down there. There are pretty much two ways we can communicate. We can communicate radio to radio, as you have, everyone has those little Motorola family talkies they have at the house usually, to another radio. We call it simplex, because it's very simple. But sometimes, if I'm at the firehouse and Ted's over in Hoosick, I probably can't reach him from radio to radio. So what we have a repeater which is currently located at the North Hoosick Firehouse. And what that repeater does is it takes my radio signal, goes into the machine, processes it, and shoots it back out at a more powerful wattage, if you would. The problem we have occurred at the firehouse is we can't quite get out there. So we approached the village board and the meeting
A while back.
About putting it at the Rensselaer Water Tower. Since then, we have done our tests, which Ted will give some results here, and there's a couple questions we have for the board. So I will turn it over to Ted Vince.
Good evening.
Hi, Ted.
I'm gonna do the KISS principle tonight, I'm gonna keep it simple. This machine that we're looking at putting up on the water tower consists of an antenna on a metal pole with a wind resistance load of at least 90 miles an hour, so it won't move in the wind. It's a very light antenna, very small. We're gonna run a wire down the side of the water tower, a coaxial cable, carries no power other than electromagnetic energy when we transmit. Receiving is nothing but milliwatts coming back, so there's no power there. I spoke with two people that have helped me immensely, is Jim Hurlbert and Josh Magazzano. They've been really great with us, they've worked with us. But I have questions that can't be answered by them, and I need a point of contact to talk to as far as the technical questions when we go to do this. So if there's somebody that handles that department, or somebody that would like to be interested in this, that could work with us.
How technically talking?
I'll keep it simple. You know, I just, where are we going, do we have to go, can we go below ground with the wire, or do we have to go above ground? Now, Jim Hurlbert told me we couldn't go underground, we had to go above ground, which is fine. I've talked with Shane Hathaway about coming down. He said he would help us in any way that he could to make the entrance into the building and to string the cable to get it up off the ground. I'm not worried about that. What I wanna know is, inside the building, where we can put the repeater, we see the power that's there, we can run the cable, everything will be neat, it'll be up to code and standard, there won't be anything in there that'll be dangerous. And then this machine will just sit there and run, nobody will even notice it's running at any time.
Sounds like we just need to set up a meeting with a couple of us and a couple of you guys at the plant to figure it out.
Anytime.
Alright,
Ted, do you wanna talk about the results we found out?
Actually, just to let you guys know something, have you been up there on a very hot day in the building?
Yeah.
Okay, so I feel very bad for our guys when they have to go in there, it's very, very hot, I know equipment transmitters don't always love the heat, just make sure you guys are aware.
There's a fan.
This is solid state, there's no tubes. So.
Right, but it's still,
Right.
yeah,
We
just so
have
you guys
a
are aware.
fan cooled, so
Yeah.
I'm not worried about it.
Okay.
It'll be
alright. I would just say, why don't you shoot me an email and we'll figure out who are the best people in the village to meet up there, we'll set up a meeting sometime.
The results that we found is we got out a lot.
It was a vast improvement to what we have now, but we
Okay.
knew it would be. It would be much better if it could go behind my house, right on top of the hill. But that's not a possibility. Up where the
Delphius head end was?
Yeah.
Better
where
TV.
Spectrum is now, where
Yeah.
Spectrum has it, where the rescue squad radios used to be, it'd be great. In fact, there's still half a tower up there, but we can't do that. So we have to do it someplace that's gonna give us,
Okay.
and that gives us good coverage to the east, good coverage to the west. North is, iffy, but you got Mount Tom in the way, so.
How is our equipment, good, fine, no harmonics issues, Neil?
Well,
Anything? I don't know.
we're
No.
350 megahertz above it.
Okay, so there's no
Right, and when you're over top of something, like your little antenna on that building that's pointed down towards the village, that UHF antenna? Okay. When it's below another antenna like that, there's a null directly below the transmitting antenna on top, so there's no energy coming down. It all radiates.
Right, ground level
out,
radiation
so it won't
protection.
affect that at all. And it's 350 megahertz, you guys are 350 megahertz above us, so.
Okay.
There's,
No harmonics, which
No.
can jump
Sounds like
frequencies.
Brian's.
we
I got a
split-
little radio engineering background too,
Right.
so.
We split the signal, like Greg said, when you talk on the radio,
Yeah.
the signal goes in, gets split 600 kilohertz.
Yep.
And sent back out simultaneously, it all happens at the same time, and there's never any interference.
Let's get a meeting figured out. And
Well, and we're just here to, I thought, just to give the okay to go ahead and set it there.
Yep.
That was the.
and I think we all want it to work. We just have to figure out technically how to make it happen. So, all right.
I'll, either myself or Ted will get a hold of you, Mr. Mayor.
perfect.
And we'll.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Awesome. Anyone else like to speak? I just want to get a general show of hands to see who wants to speak.
We have a need of it. More
Thank you.
radios.
Okay.
Thank you guys for all you do.
I'll do a 3-minute limit, and remember when you share, stand, say your name and home address.
Kevin Allard, 5421 State Route 7, Hoosick Falls, New York. A couple months ago, I asked if you could do a breakdown of what the finances were with the additional money you came, that was negotiated by Mr. Engel, and what impact that would have on the borrowing. You said at the time you would get with Denise.
Yep, I'm thinking about what we've done since.
If you don't have it tonight, that's fine. I missed the August meeting, and,
In the August meeting, we approved bringing in an expert to help us prepare. Andy, how do I describe this?
Sure, it was an expert to take a look at damages that the
a cost
village
accountant.
Yeah. So we put some money to that. The rest of it at this point, as far as I can recall, and Ben, you may have an additional information on this, it's basically just kind of been put in cash flow to help offset some of the lows.
Well, people had questions about the bond, and they were concerned about the bond and what impact that would have on taxes. And you can understand.
No, I
the
absolutely
concern.
understand
Well,
that.
So when people see the 500,000, 500 plus and change coming in, they would like to know how that's going to impact that future borrowing. In the next month or two, if you could get that together, that would be great.
Will do.
The other thing is, when I go to your website and I look for an agenda, there isn't an agenda on there since May.
We've been getting them up about the day or two before. I'm the guy who's been doing that.
Well, but your last agenda is May 8th.
I don't know what spot. It's normally put on the calendar portion of the webpage.
If you go to the board meetings, and then it goes up, and you look, and it says click here for.
We're also in the process of getting a whole new website rolled out.
Well, I noticed
but
on
I
the
understand
top part
that
of your website, it says this website is under construction. But
It's
I've
been like that.
it's
looking
been
at
like that for
8
4
years.
forever.
Well, and
So
and
for
current web
permits, you're
design,
getting close.
yeah, best practices don't.
Got it, noted.
handle that stuff anyway, so. That's
Um,
why we need a new one.
and the person who's been doing the web site for the past several years has been doing it for free and offering his services. But that being said, we still have some things we have to make sure we get on site. There was someone else. Yes.
Marion Stevens, Weiler Avenue, Hoosick Falls, reverse 911. Where are we?
Brian.
I have no update.
No update.
I've been.
June, we had approval at the June meeting, things were going ahead, so nothing's happened since then?
Was it June we approved it?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like we signed that
Mm-hmm.
more recently.
I know
Wasn't
the
last
Alert
month.
New York
Yes.
contract was August.
It was August then was when we signed that contract.
I wasn't at the August meeting, so.
So we signed the contract.
Mm-hmm. We will talk.
We'll talk. On my list. Alerts, New York. All right. Anyone else? Okay. I'm gonna move on, gonna give you very, very quick, Mayor, oh shoot, we haven't done, we don't have reports here yet. Yeah, we forgot to put it on the agenda this time. Let's go through reports real fast. Do you have a copy of the reports here? Thank you.
You come prepared.
I even copied these. We don't have a treasurer's report this time, as we keep throwing more stuff for Denise to do. I feel awful. Bob, do you want to talk, police?
You want me to give my report right now?
Yep.
Oh, okay, total calls for August were 104. Total calls for July were 153. Total arrests for August were 19, and past month were 24. Domestics, they always seem to lead our list. That were 19. Mental health were 3. Code enforcement were 1. EMS were 17. Sex registries were 2. Warrant arrests were 5. Animal complaints were 3. Larceny were 4. And the list goes down from there. I'll leave that.
Question for you, Bob, on the sex registry, that is someone just moving within the village, not new incoming sexual offenders?
Sometimes it's new people moving in, and sometimes it's just changing. They're changing their address or something on their paperwork that they're, or updated photo, et cetera, et cetera.
Okay.
We do have officers that are assigned strictly to monitor that situation. So when they come in here, they just don't speak to an officer at the desk. They'll give the initial information and then they're told to follow up with that particular officer. As we're getting closer to Halloween and such, we'll be doing visits there as well, making sure that they're in compliance with the sex registry itself. So when it says the number that we have here, it varies, because it could be, like I said, it could be just coming in. Arrests for the month were for petty larceny, criminal trespass, harassment, bench warrants, and that's another thing that we just started, this past couple of months. We've assigned an officer strictly to deal with the bench warrants, so when they're coming from the courts over to us, they're not just filed and left there, they're actively pursued at that given time, so you'll notice that there's been an increase in bench warrants. It's because we've got officers that are just strictly taking the warrants, in searching. We send letters out to the people, tell them that we have a warrant for you, that you need to comply with it within X amount of days, or, we'll be forwarded to the other agencies. So that has been an increase that we've been noticing. Criminal mischief, traffic arrests, unauthorized use of a motor vehicle, criminal possessions of credit card, possession of stolen property, possession of the marijuana, and driving while intoxicated. Our driving while intoxicated numbers are increasing a little bit as well, because our weekend guys are strictly going out with the enforcement. Which brings me to another point. I know I've talked to the mayor, and Ann, you've spoken to the South DWI coordinator. He called me today, and he still hasn't received.
I have a girl to call to do that, because both the mayor and I have tried to do it. We couldn't.
It's becoming time sensitive.
I thought it got done, because I asked him.
He called me today.
Oh, jeez. Alright.
And when I say time
Are you
sensitive.
coming in
it's they
tomorrow?
got
I'll
all
set
this
up a
paperwork
call.
on.
Yeah.
Right, so if you guys.
Take care of it tomorrow. He'll come
Give
in.
him my number if he wants to reach out. I thought it was done, because I hadn't heard anything for like 3 or 4 weeks.
No.
I'll contact him and do that. The other thing that we got going on is, and Brian and I have talked briefly about this, I just wanna throw it out here. I've been approached by some of our kids in our community, and in the past, we've been trying to figure out how to deal with them. We've been having some issues and some problems. A couple of those kids that we put into the system through probation, have come to me and have asked me about looking into or talking about a place for like a skate park or a bike park for the kids to go to. My conversation with them is, I'm glad, number one, they're talking to us, they're not ignoring us. They've got some questions and concerns and thoughts. I told them that I would bring it forth to the board, just to let them know that the board is talking about. I think it would be good that at least we give it to some consideration. If we choose to do such, I told the kids that the kids would have to come to a board meeting and speak to you in person about it. If it goes any further, they would have to do the research, the complete presentation. And if it's something that the board, whether it's the village and the town wants to look at, and possibly explore, and it gets to a funding part, they would have to do fundraising, and I told them that the police department would assist them with that, either through chicken barbecues, et cetera, et cetera. And I'm just putting it out there because they are talking, and that's one of the things that we've tried to reach out to the kids and say, let's talk, and they are.
I could probably think of a couple of teachers who would help them present that too.
Yep.
'Cause that would be great
You're
to
looking
have
at
them
them.
present, yeah.
It doesn't pan out, for whatever reason, at least they've been heard. And they can understand what the process is.
That's great.
And as to why it hasn't.
And actually, we did discuss, North Adams and Pittsfield both have fairly new skate parks that were a result, and they're for BMX as well, for bikes, skateboards, blades. They were the result of youth in the community looking for those. They're on main state routes. Everybody keeps an eye on it. They're a safe space for them to play and do whatever they need to do. So yeah, we have some area communities we can also reach out to for advice on doing that if they so choose to pursue that.
And like I said, at least we can, it's working. It's working. And the only other thing I wanna talk about, I know this is, I don't mean to scare anybody or throw it out there, but snow's gonna come soon.
Oh, Chief, good night.
Hang on. What we're trying to do this year, the police department, we're putting together some different
Snowshoes.
things, and one of the things we're reaching out to AC3 to work with us, and probably one of the fire departments about bringing Santa for a day into the park, so I'm gonna be coming probably within the next month or two and asking for the use of the park, but I'm also throwing it out there for any ideas of what you might think. We're talking about just some like minor things going on with the kids. But we're also looking at, last year, we had some people come to us that were looking for a family to provide food for, in need. So we're looking at possibly doing some kind of a food drive, possibly for Thanksgiving. And I know I talked to the mayor, he's gonna reach out to, or talk to some of the counselors to, I don't wanna embarrass anybody or anything like that, so it'll be done on a QT type thing. But it's something I wanna, we gotta start talking about it now, because before we know it's gonna be here.
Doesn't Hockett do that?
Hockett does.
They may do it, but it's something that I don't think a lot know about it either, so this way we can.
Well, maybe if you
we
also
can-
coordinate with them,
With Hockett?
so you don't end up,
Diane Husker.
because they're very good
Yeah,
about
'cause
working
I
with that.
volunteered filling boxes for, they get packed quite a bit.
Okay.
And they do it at Thanksgiving, that part,
Okay, that'd be
I
good.
don't know about.
I think they do Christmas
they?
also, and a lot of the different churches do different things, but what would be good is to touch base with them, because sometimes.
Yeah, that's one of
like
the
you say,
people we're gonna
double
reach
dipping
out to.
happens.
And that we don't wanna do, we wanna assist, so if there's something we can do through fund drive in ourselves, and
Yep,
to
that
help
would be
get the
great.
word out there, that would be what we wanna do, so. And if anybody wants to give this information out to these individuals as well, and they can reach out to me, that'd be great. And that's it, unless you have any other
And
questions.
I wanna say, I'm glad to hear about something, you know, the thought of something with the bikes and something being done, because it's been a concern about ours, that a lot of times when we're coming through town, bikes are all over the streets, the kids not even with helmets anymore, skateboards, and they're jumping over things and everything else, and it's really,
One of the questions the kids had was, your officers tell us to get off the sidewalk, and then they tell us to get off the road. And like I've explained to them, that riding a bike comes with respect and responsibility. So if you're on the sidewalk riding down, and you see someone walking to you, towards you, it's your responsibility to get out of their way. And
but you
and
have
go
like,
past.
it's only like one small group of
I know,
kids.
we're aware of that group, and
Yeah.
actually.
And they've been working with them, and it's been
we've
improving.
working with this group,
It's been
so,
improving.
It's a slow process.
Oh, we understand, and I'm not insulting.
No,
What's
no,
that?
no, I
But I'm
understand.
glad, because years ago, believe it or not, they used to have, the area behind the Baptist church is where kids would come and do the, jumps and everything else, that they would do it back there, because they had nowhere else to go. That they would use that parking lot and things like that. But this has been an ongoing issue for this community, an area for kids with bikes and the jumps that they wanna do and the skateboarding and stuff like that.
That's why I hope they come and talk to us about it. Do you have any guys?
And then just brought one more to my attention, September 29th, they're having with AC3, we'll be handing out helmets free of charge with a local, attorney's office that's sponsoring all the homes. So it's on Facebook, and Brian, if you can get that out on Twitter.
Yeah. Or send it, I can find either of us.
We'll talk, sorry,
Yeah.
So we can,
Alright,
so that's gonna be another thing.
thank you. Any other questions for Bob? Motion to
Bob.
approve?
Motion.
Ben,
Second.
second Brian.
Thank you,
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Code enforcement reports. Mark.
Hey, Mark.
Hi, I've been told to make it short, so you have my report, anything else?
Thanks, Mark. Have a good night, Marion.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, guys, thank you very
Thank
much.
you.
Yeah, I have this effect on people. Since I started talking.
You were hanging out with them last night, right?
Kick them out.
You had a few extras.
So basically, I mean, it just continues to be very busy. I will say, just so y'all are aware, that, you know, some of the complaints that I get in go onto a list. I don't always get to that list right away. There's a breaking point in here somewhere that I'm hitting, that you just can't get to everything. I gotta close out some of the cases. I have some cases that are getting really old, that I've gotta get back to, so I'm trying to work my way back to that, so just trying to prioritize things as I go. You know, there's certain people that walk around town and find things for me all the time, so I'm trying to get them to do their exercises out on the hill road, not so much in the village, you know, so.
I need a couple weeks of vacation pretty soon, so I can do a recheck.
Sorry.
Good music.
Mark, one question I see on your notes. The village, you showed 62 mechanic
Yes.
to a potential,
Somebody that was interested, but I haven't heard back from him. He said he had a buddy he wanted to show it to, who would be helping him, and he's gonna get back to me, so his buddy can look at it, but I haven't heard, that was a couple weeks ago. So, I don't know if there's any interest there or not.
When we're done with reports, I wanna skip right up to the buildings that we're moving on, and that'll include you guys, so I'm sorry, just bear with us, we'll be there soon, but I just wanna move up that on the agenda.
Yep, you know, besides that, Marie is going away, so in another couple weeks, I'll have her back. She's been helping in the office. And hopefully we'll get working, have her focus on some of the zombie properties and things like that. So we can start moving forward on some of those. Besides that,
Yep.
A couple of code-related issues that, especially on my street, there's at least two that people put out their garbage cans, and they're there 7 days a week. Do we have a?
They have wheels.
We have a
Yes.
local law.
We do. They have wheels.
Yeah,
yeah,
well,
we know they have wheels, so they don't wanna use it.
we have a local law, I think
Push
that
it.
says they have to be brought in and
They
be
do.
on the
Yeah.
side or in back of the building.
Can't be out there 24 hours.
Exactly.
in
Can we-
advance, right?
We do.
Have letters.
you have a certain amount of time to pull them back after the garbage.
7 days is not time.
Unless they go on vacation and they put out that boarding and they,
Their
right?
neighborhood.
Well, can we have a
Their neighbor will
standing,
call them.
standard warning letter that we give these people, so they, a reminder that they
Can be.
can't leave it out there 7 days a
I
week?
think I have one.
Yeah, cause you can drive down River
Because
Street
there
any
wasn't
given
one.
day. and-
Yeah.
Ian was, you know.
Yeah.
wanted me to
But
be
then
at
the other
garbage.
side of the coin is sometimes, like again, I've noticed, I think it was just last weekend, that Main Street wasn't picked up on Friday or like
Yeah, but
they were.
This has been all summer
Oh,
long.
I know,
Yeah.
but I'm just saying, I think you've had a really inconsistency sometimes on the picking up of the garbage.
This summer we
in the
did.
village. This,
This summer there were a lot of issues.
a lot of issues with that.
I think Mark
Report
uses
on it.
discretion to know, right, if it's
Right.
been there a while, or if it's snowed in, obviously
Yeah.
can't be moved, so,
We gotta let
yeah.
them.
I'll let you know.
A few
what-
times I just stopped and talked to the,
Yeah.
homeowner, if I see him out there, look at, notice the cans
Yeah.
out here, they gotta be pulled back.
Just tag the house with a poop emoji, they'll take the hint.
The other thing was, there was a couch on Church Street for 2 weeks that was in pieces.
What was the
Oh
story
no,
with
it kept
that?
coming back,
Yeah.
like it would disappear and then it would appear with less pieces.
What was the story with that?
I don't know.
How can we address that when that
Too lazy
happens?
to bring it
I
to
mean,
the transfer.
I know some people lived in Troy and moved here. In Troy, they take care of that stuff. If you put
But
it
they
up on the
don't
road,
here.
they'll dispose of it. Is that up to the landlord or
It
the?
is ultimately the landlord's responsibility, yes.
They
That's
put
just
out there
one of those
free.
things, I was aware
Yeah,
of
but
it.
it kept
Well, this
shaking.
wasn't free stuff. It was garbage.
No.
Right.
That's beautiful.
It was an art project.
And that is one of those ones that I was aware of and just,
No.
Performance art, couch
All right.
performance.
Any other questions for Mark?
Nope.
Motion to approve the code enforcement report?
Motion.
Thank you, Brian. Need a
Second.
second? Second, Bobby, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries, thank you. Community service,
you want it to
Report?
go up to the,
let me finish reports and then we'll jump right into that. Community service report, 61 hours for the month of August, included weekly cleaning of town of Hoosick office space, detailed police cars, weeded and cut back brush on Greenway, mowed, weeded Little League fields, and water plant from Jerry McCullough. Motion to approve.
Motion.
Brian, second. Ben, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Clerk's report. She was busy, she had a little bit of vacation, they had a whole bunch of property transfers, and 4 properties were recently bought from the village at the local auction by local residents, which was cool to see. And it's time to do our draft our Swami calendar, which I think you're gonna be,
Which we're working on.
yep. Anything else you wanna add?
I sent the minutes out, did I send them to you guys?
Yes.
Or did I just?
No.
I didn't
Excuse me.
I didn't see him.
Nope.
Huh?
You didn't have any
We're glad
spare
we got the
minutes to
agenda.
send
No,
us
I
the
didn't see any
minutes.
minutes in. Seriously.
You had no
I
minutes
guess
to
I
send
did.
us the
All right,
minutes.
all
I
right,
scanned
that's
them
fine.
and didn't send them,
She had
and
no minutes.
besides, I had,
One thing I forgot to.
I had to send the agenda out late, you'll know you got it Friday.
Yeah,
Yeah, we got, and we did get it Friday, we gotta get it today. I
Yeah.
understand.
Yeah.
One,
What I'm
one,
saying.
and these 4 sales, is that the ones I talked to you about, are those, you're not talking about the auction ones, these are
Yeah.
These are auctions.
Auction ones,
oh, okay.
plus others we, a lot, yeah.
I'm just saying, I'm talking about
I have
like
2 for
realtor
this
sales.
week, yeah.
Okay, there's additional, okay.
And one thing that happened in your absence was we got a letter out to all of the people around the area of Snow Street about the construction project that's coming up. And that's on the website, and I meant to add that on Facebook. I'll try to do that tonight or tomorrow, just so people in that area are aware of what the construction is and how long it's gonna be going on for. Motion to approve the clerk's report?
Motion.
Uh,
Second.
Okay. Craig, Ben, okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Highway department. Neil, do you want to, Bobby, someone want to summarize?
No. Have it?
Alright, let's see, well,
Do you just want to talk about the trucks?
yeah, let's talk about the trucks. Neil?
I mean, no truck.
Won't
Yeah,
the insurance
got
cover
hit by an
the
eight.
loss of that truck that was in the accident, or is that fixable?
How long is the fixing gonna take?
They gave me no idea.
And when's the new truck come in?
The end of October, November.
What happens if you have to wait till that time to get one or both vehicles back?
If it snows, we'll be.
I was gonna say plowing.
If it snows, we'll be out with snow shovels.
Are both trucks that are down, would those have been plowing trucks? Is it worth looking into a used truck in the meantime that can plow?
I'm gonna say no, cause for another, what they charge you for a good used truck, another 8 to 10,000 to buy brand new. So,
What if I know of a pretty good condition plow truck that could be for about 8,000 with the plow? Would that interest you?
What, are you selling used cars on the side?
I'm not, but I've been looking for a truck, but I discovered that money is lacking.
there's a lot of good used trucks out there, but you just gotta remember you're buying somebody else's headache.
Yeah.
Plus,
Yeah,
we don't
that's
have a
true.
lot of money.
I have noticed that too, which is why I'm not buying the trucks.
I think we should just
Don't worry about my street.
take a chance and, but I think we should really be pestering, who is doing the repair work on the truck to hit the deer?
The Paula.
Well,
I mean, the deer hit the
I'll
truck.
take care of that
The deer that
tomorrow.
hit the
Yeah,
truck.
that seems like
I'll be
that's a
making a phone call tomorrow.
Alright,
Yep.
I know somebody who works there.
Do ya?
you know a guy, huh?
Yeah.
Alright,
He sits up
We all know
there.
that.
do you wanna, a lot of work's been done?
Yeah, we did. Neil, you're all done with the, with all the paving, correct?
Yeah, we've got some touch-up paving ourselves, you know,
No.
stop paving, but
The paving, they did a nice job on
Really nice
all the
job.
streets. Looks really good. I've had lots of compliments about it, so.
As have I.
So your summer help is all gone too, Neil?
Yep,
saw that. That's sad. That means you still have hours that, because we had a certain amount of hours set aside for that. So that could be funds we could use for something else.
A new truck.
Yeah, that's exactly
Or
what I was
hire
thinking.
some kid to plow.
Or we'll hire a kid to
We'll
plow,
hire a
that's
kid
what we'll
to
do
plow.
if it snows. Anything else you wanna touch
You're
upon?
hired.
No,
How-
other than, I'm be gone the first 2 weeks of October. Leaf pickup's gonna be coming right around the corner.
Okay.
Neil, I did see a couple spots up on,
Excuse me.
Church, Upper Church, towards the end where, there's sidewalks projects going on, are they, who are we waiting on? Someone to come, the contractor?
One of them.
Okay. I just know it's been like that for a few weeks, I was just curious,
Plus it gives time for the gravel to settle.
Okay.
Stuff, so.
Alright, just curious.
Okay.
Not to prolong our truck suffering, but in the event we have some crazy early snow or bad snow, do we have any sort of shared service in place with the town where maybe they could help us out if need be, if we don't have enough trucks, so you guys aren't?
Well, we can put plows on a couple big dump trucks,
Okay,
other than the two big ones we use.
but it's preferable to do
It's a
that.
lot scarier for some of the guys.
Is Mark still in
Yeah.
there? Is Mark still in
The
there?
village and the town do have some shared services agreement in place.
I don't know if there's
I don't know if
something
they would
there
be,
to- yeah.
if they'd have services available to do plowing, cause I hear they have a few miles to plow during snowstorms.
They do, but it's like an extreme situation if
Yeah.
we needed
You
a
know,
hand.
we'll manage.
Okay,
Okay.
you always do very well for us, so thank you.
I like being under pressure sometimes.
I heard that.
So that means I may not come back from South Carolina.
I'll make the motion, we accept Neil's report.
Thank you.
Second.
Second, Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you, I
You're
hope
not
South
going there like
Carolina
now,
is
are
still
you?
there.
Yeah, you're not going there now, are you?
No, October. Alright, sewer department, is Kenny in there?
No.
Okay.
Gone.
They did monthly maintenance, did a bunch of stuff. They met actually with myself and did a couple calls with to discuss sewer projects, hit a deer, raise some manholes, good stuff.
Oh, that is on here, that's great.
Yep. Yeah, top of the next page. Motion, looking for motion to approve?
Motion. Second.
Ben, Craig, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carries. Water department, is Jim in there?
No, I can
No.
keep it quick. I guess I mean.
Go for it, Brian.
Alright, they were busy as usual, there was some training with operating with the GAC system, a lot of, work with the county or the state level, Calgon. They did do one water main repair, Scott Street, and they now have pre-construction meeting for Snow Street project, which now we are getting into, which will help up there, just to note, to repeat, we need to go to our money vault for the truck, and also the Rensselaer Street pump station is something we need to make sure to maintain on our radar.
And I have more on that shortly.
It is troubled.
Alright.
Under that water though, I wanted to touch base with, I gotta find an email from Jim, and it's October 24th, right? We're hosting the at the
Rural Water.
Association.
Oh, yeah.
Jim, just send the forms down here, I'll have them fill it out.
Yeah, no, I'm just saying, we're hosting the meeting though, correct?
Yeah.
At the Hoosick Falls.
How do you know that and I don't know that?
Because
I had to
I'm
get insurance.
He's a water trustee.
Oh, you're paying money, that's
I'm in
fine.
charge of
Good.
renting out the firehouse.
Oh, that's fine, you go with that. I don't need more stuff, it's all you.
Alright, looking for motion to approve the
Motion.
water?
Second.
I think that was
Yes,
Brian
give it
and
to
and
Vanessa.
Vanessa. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Alright, carries, thank you.
26.
With the board's permission, I'd like to jump down to, talking about the, 3 buildings that we have been, working on towards, demolition, and last, meeting we had 3 public hearings. We left one open, and we've had some conversations, with the folks, related to Waldron Avenue. Even as recent as yesterday, I think you guys spoke today. Do you guys wanna give us an update first, or do you want Mark to speak first?
We have contract signed, so we're waiting on a variance from the state in order for the demolition to begin, and we needed a letter of condemnation, which she gave us tonight.
Awesome.
So it should probably be about another week or so until they get a variance, and then, Christo Demolition has got the contract for the
Okay.
demolition. And they're gonna apply for the building permit with you as soon as we get the go-ahead with the variance. So right now, we're just basically waiting for the state. So
All
if
right.
you wanna see the contracts that we have signed, that we're good with that.
So you're
we
steps
have
further
spectrum.
ahead than you were last time.
We are leaps and bounds ahead of
Okay.
where we were
That's
last
awesome.
time. Last time we didn't have contracts signed, now everything's ready to go.
And is the pricing reasonable or?
We did get 28,500 for the demo, which was about where they were in the beginning before
Before
the
everything
guy
went
broke
crazy.
the contract.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And we got about 4,000 for Spectrum, which is the, the air quality guy.
Okay.
So we're at about 33,000. Hopefully, I don't think anything else will come up. I think we've done everything, so
Okay.
I think we're good with that, so.
Good.
I mean, we'll keep in contact, let you know when the variance comes
All right.
back, when they're gonna start. I do know Cristo Demolition, I think they called and talked to somebody in the water department, maybe they said already, to see about the shut-offs and stuff.
That would make sense.
Yeah, they wanted to see about, the shut-offs and all that, so they did call and speak to somebody already, so,
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. That's great.
okay.
I don't think we need to leave the public hearing open anymore, since we've
would
got
not advise.
a lot of details. So at this point, I'm looking for a motion to close a public hearing relating to 5 Waldron Avenue.
Motion?
Second. Bobby and Ben, any further discussion on this? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Again, staying thematically with this in new business, Mark was gonna fill us in on where we're in the process with all the buildings, the 3 buildings. It doesn't sound like we're gonna need it in any way for you guys, cause it sounds like you guys are absolutely on your game, which is awesome, and thank you. Can you give us an update on what's the next step in the process for the others?
They could go, right?
Yeah, if you guys wanna
Are we
go,
good?
totally fine. Thank you guys for bearing with.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome, thank you.
Well, this is the next step, is putting things out to bid, so.
Sure, so the next step is, Mark and I have worked on some draft bid specifications for the demolition work, that's still subject to review. What you talked about at your August meeting was to move forward, with a motion to finalize the specifications and advertise for bids. That will at least get the process moving, and then bids would be returned and ready for review at your October meeting. As the board's aware, we've had discussions, not just with 5 Waldron, but the owners of 22 John Street. We've been told that that private owner would likewise be taking the building down. We will hope that that occurs, but there's a great phrase, hope for the best, plan for the worst. So this bid spec would include that property. And quite frankly, at this point, it may include the Waldron Street property. The bid spec is set up so that there'd be a quote per property as well as a combined quote for all properties. In the event anything falls through, the village would be in a position to move forward on any one or all of the properties and take those. So that's where we're at.
Okay. All right. So you're looking for a motion from us to advertise the demolition of the 3 properties.
And if I could, that would be the motion, if
All
you
right.
could, and
Certainly.
can have that when you're done, but that would be
Yep.
the motion to read in.
Okay, so I'm looking for a motion. The Village Board of Trustees of the Village of Hoosick Falls is hereby direct the Village Business Department, Building Department, sorry, I can read, to prepare, with the assistance of the village attorney as necessary, specifications for the demolition and removal of the structures located at 5 Waldron Avenue, tax map number 27.19-7-18, 6 Spring Street, you don't want me to read the tax map? Alright, fine, and 22 John Street, found to be unsafe by this village board pursuant to section 5 of Hoosick Falls Local Law number 1 of 2008, in compliance with all in compliance with all lawful requirements, and to thereafter advertise for the receipt. Stop! You're making me laugh. The receipt of public bids in compliance with said specifications for said demolition and removal of said unsafe structures. Looking for that motion.
So, I have a question before we.
You can make the motion, discuss after, doesn't bother me either way, that's fine.
Motion.
Alright.
Second.
Alright,
Now you're-
discussion. Of Brian and
So,
Ben.
the owners of 5 Waldron just sat here all night long, and we told them they could go, and now we're gonna advertise the bid to take down
No,
their house?
that's only in.
I understand, I'm all for it, but I we just told them they could go, did they know we were gonna be doing this?
Yes,
That
said
seems-
yes, we have explained this, and even in my last communication, I said
And even
we're
after
gonna
tonight,
do
they
this
were
and-
aware of that we're
Yep.
going to be doing this.
Yep.
So this is in essence Plan B, correct me if I'm
And-
wrong, and if everything falls through on their end, this is our Plan B, we have the recourse, right?
My only concern was that they just walked out
They
the
didn't know.
door and we didn't say.
So,
Yep, no.
so what if we got a lower bid for their property,
We can help them out.
It doesn't even sound like we'll
Actually,
even get to the bid if it goes the way I think it's going to go. It's possible.
Yeah, the bid will probably be, hopefully they'll be done before the bid comes back.
That's correct, that's the
Right.
game.
Yeah, I don't see any harm in doing this, it just felt.
I know where you're coming
didn't-
from, Craig,
Didn't feel
absolutely.
Yep.
totally.
Yep.
Private bid versus public bid, the chances are pretty slim.
Then it's gonna come back lower, yeah, prevailing wage, right?
So we have the motion still, is there any other question, discussion? Okay, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries, thank you. Alright, I'm gonna bounce back up and go through, just quickly brief on my mayor updates. Number one, the highway garage, the bids came back high, as you remember last time. We've had some conversations with, some representatives from, State Senator Marchionne's office, and I forget, was it through DASNY? Whoever the grant is through, we're still trying to figure out exactly what our options are, and we are going to, Neil and I are gonna have a conversation with MRB about what the next step is, just with everything that's been going on in both of our lives. We haven't gotten to it, but that's where the next thing, we should have a bigger update for you next time. The Woodsbrook buyout program, we approved us signing it on the 6th of this past week. Their board officially, approved the plan, so we have the copy. I'm gonna sign it tonight, and we are now finally full speed ahead, and I'm gonna get an email out to all of the people tomorrow, just telling them of that.
Correct,
Yes.
The state did approve the form of the agreement. There's still a little bit of administrative work the village needs to
Yeah.
get completed.
Yep.
But then the field work will start.
Which means we can start having the contractors who are gonna do the survey work and the appraisal work,
Survey
start
work.
to communicate with the individuals who are involved. In the meantime, we'll be doing some behind the scenes work on searches and stuff. We're finally going with that, which is really exciting. The last thing that isn't on here, but I did see and I wanted to mention it, but I can't because my computer died. There was a recent article in a newspaper in Pennsylvania who's been following the PFAS contamination down there that mentioned that the CDC is doing, they're starting to do their health study, and it specifically mentioned some communities in Pennsylvania, and it mentioned 2 communities in New York who have already had blood monitoring. So I've already asked CDC, EPA, DEC, DOH, and what I think is going to be the answer, but we haven't gotten confirmation yet, is that it's specific only to the military sites and not to us, which means the 2 sites are the obvious Newburgh and the other one, the Gabreski Air Force, which is down in Long Island.
Used to have the national.
And if that is the case, I haven't gotten confirmation yet. I'm going to go absolutely crazy, and I think, and I'm. This is just me guessing, but I think DOH and DEC will back up the fact that we have a community here who's been through a round of blood testing and has a second round already in process. We are the perfect subject for this, and if the federal government is going to do a PFAS contamination study and limit it to PFOS, that is just maddening. So I am waiting to hear from that, from EPA, DEC, CDC to find out what that's going to be, and if it does not involve us, I'll be getting letters out to pretty much everybody and their mother to make sure that that is not overlooked.
May I add to that?
Please, Lorraine.
So I had a webinar with the director of CDC, Dr. Bricey, about 2 months ago with our national coalition, and I hammered him on that, because he couldn't give me a straight answer. There's gonna be 8 communities in this first national study. The only reason they're focusing on DOD is because that's what got budgeted for. He
Yep.
would not rule us out. He would not, you know, you know me, I hammered
Yep.
him on that. We have all the data, we're in our second round, why wouldn't you choose us? We have double the amount of people at peak.
Yep.
I also, while I was in DC last month, hammered that with both Senators Gillibrand and Schumer.
And I think that if we need
And they did a
to,
follow-up letter,
yep,
so.
good. Yeah, I'm ready to mobilize,
Oh,
if
yeah.
we're not included, cause there's
It
no
makes
reason
no
we
sense
shouldn't
to
be.
not include us, and then, you know, throwing in Bennington like they discussed before.
Yep,
And
Yep.
here's more numbers, so,
so
yeah.
I will hopefully have another update on that, but I just saw that a couple days ago and that got me moving. In terms of grants, I want to give an update on the Snow Street grants. So much has happened in the past few weeks.
So much has happened in this meeting.
Yeah, seriously, this is, and I told my wife this would be a short one. I don't even know why I say things like that anymore.
Yeah, we don't know either.
Yeah, I don't know.
Told you his was over at
Seriously.
9:30.
You knew it was gonna be a long one.
So
and
we
were like,
have the
yeah,
Snow
look
Street
good.
project. We have a $350,000 grant. The project was priced out to about 310 or 15, something like that. Was the cost of the project. We had the plan in place. We were short one easement. We met. We were initially turned down by the property owner. We met with them, showed them the plan, explained why, answered a bunch of questions, why the easement on the front edge of their property was necessary. And it has to do with the direction of storm drains and the fact that if you have a water line, you can't have a storm or sewer drain running parallel within about 10 feet. I think it's 10 or 12. Is it 10 feet? 10 feet. So some time went by, we revisited it. We went up there to plan it out and map it out with the contractors. Neil was a huge help. I cannot say that enough. We planned out a hypothetical scenario where we wouldn't need the easement, but it requires us taking out 2 or 3 lines of storm drain and putting in about 2 or 3 different lines of storm drain so that we can stay on the road and not have to encroach into the yard. We recently got the estimate back for that, and it's right here. Ignore the fact that they labeled the municipality wrong on the top, but we are in fact not the town of Rotterdam. But those are the 3 sheets, and the final total of this addition, which would be a change order 1, is $13,297. This would include the fact that we didn't have to take out the tree in their yard, which was about a $600 credit. But the fact that we do have to dig up 3 lines, dispose of 3 lines. Neil has already found a way to provide the lines, so we're trying to figure out what we can do to lessen it. But after that is being said, we still are, it's additional 13,000 and change. I brought this up to the owner to see if they would be willing to still accept the easement so the village didn't have to take on an additional $13,000. Knowing the fact that the money we save here would be going to
a new truck?
No, not the new truck, the pump station
try.
up there, which is step 2 of the water pressure improvements that we're trying to administer up there. And their basic response was they're glad the project can go forward without the easements. So we have no way to do this project without approving the extra money. The extra money still comes from the grant. It just means we have less money left over at the end.
So we can't encroach their property based on eminent domain? We don't have that authority?
Well,
or
there's a certain amount of space from the center of the road over into the yard that we have access to as village land, but we need more than that. Eminent domain process would probably take between 4 and 6 months.
And that's aggressive. We went through that on the sewer project.
Yep.
Yeah.
And did obtain title to the easements, but it did take.
Took about 6 months.
About 6 months.
And the sideshow.
It's really a time.
In this case, the time is.
The irony is that the cost of going through that process would actually have been less than the cost of this. But we have no choice. The troops are mobilized and they've already begun, I think, a few things of work.
If we knew this 6 months ago,
If
it
we-
would have been less
Okay.
expensive to go through the whole condemnation proceeding
Yes.
than this change order.
Okay, no, I'm just curious. I know that it is.
Unfortunately, it is what it is. So despite frustrations, it is their absolutely legitimate God-given right to say no because it is their property. So unfortunately, I am bringing before you a change order for approximately $1,300. which will again all be financed through the grant that we have, so we're not spending additional village money. We just have less left over to go into upgrade 2 up there, which is the pump station.
I'll make the motion to approve.
Really unfortunate. Alright, Ben, any a second?
Second.
Alright, Craig, any further discussion beside how much it really stinks that we're gonna have less money to put in that upgrade?
Just that as soon as we have an idea of how soon that upgrade can be done, I do want that to be a priority, just as we're going forward with that, because,
I know.
Yeah,
But,
that water is at a trickle up there.
Yes, that
I
is
agree,
a-
I agree, Brian.
yeah.
Yep. But not until Neil's truck, right?
Don't be starting the war.
Maybe we'll have him race to see who can get it first.
Well, we can't plow the streets, he can't get up there.
Well played.
No, the
Good under
chief's gonna
pressure.
walk him on his snowshoes.
Okay, any additional discussion on this?
Wait, we had a motion, right?
Yeah, we have the motion, any additional discussion on this? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, motion carries.
No. Shower.
I have one more item under old business, and I would like to table this because, of some conversations I had with Mr. Engel about this, but this was authorizing access for DEC, to get on 13 Waterworks Road, which is part of the supplemental investigation that DEC is doing in about 30 or 40 sites across the village and town, based on what people have said. I spoke with Dave Engel on this, and we just wanna table this and have some more direct conversations with DEC about specifically what they're gonna be doing.
Okay, I'll make the motion to table it.
Second.
Get further information.
Any further discussion?
Negative.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, tabled, great, thank you. We did the new business motion to advertise a demo. Request from the town of Hoosick Historic Society to assist with funding for the partially partially fixed fence in front of the old Maple Grove. Do you have that request?
I feel like I saw it somewhere. Did we have it emailed or was it printed? Like, I remember physically seeing it, but I don't
think
have
it was
it.
last month, I thought we.
It wasn't in my stuff, yeah. I do wanna find a way to support that, just to mention.
It was an email of some sort.
Was it?
It was an email.
It didn't come out, I've seen it, yeah.
I tried to search for the email and I couldn't find it.
To be honest, when it's one of those gateways to the village, people come in and it is a
Wasn't it
historic
from- wasn't it
cemetery.
from Joyce Brewer?
Yeah, from Joyce.
May
But I
have been
can't.
from Joyce.
Correspondence from Joyce
I
Brewer.
feel like it was a
pretty
hard copy on my computer.
Yeah, it's all running together,
Because-
but it's a good, when you come in the village, to have the fence straighted up, painted, maintained.
Yeah.
It not only shows that we respect our heritage, but, you don't drive by thinking, what a dump.
Can we table this and I'll talk to Denise and get some,
Yeah.
Financials.
ideas of see what we have her
How much
finances
more
for
are they
this?
asking?
That's what I don't remember, that's why I
They
need to
don't.
see the paper.
Yeah.
I feel
Less
like I
than
gave a
Neil's
bunch of
truck?
things to Judy while you were gone,
Lot less.
then forgot to get them.
But something, if we can find help with that, would be great.
Yeah.
Alright, yeah, I would like to see that happen too. Can I get a motion to table this?
Yep, yep.
And
Second.
Ben, second Brian, further discussion?
No.
All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Carries. One quick thing, Bill Gaillard has reached out and asked for some financing, support from the village to take the, flooring on the gazebo and change it from whatever it is right now, some sort of maple, to the, Mark, what's that stuff called? Trex. They have people to install it. He figures it's about a $5,000 expense, and he wants to see if the village can go in 50-50 with him. I know we have some money in terms of what we set aside for park spending, and I know we don't have to make this decision right now. I would like to do this eventually, but it wouldn't be done likely until spring anyway. His concern is he may want to buy the materials sooner and wait until spring to do the install because the materials may go up in price. Neil, I know the concern, of course, is always that we're short on a lot of things and trucks keeps coming up.
Just a thought on that, with Joyce's request for the cemetery, that's actually not Historical Society, right? It's Cemetery Association, but also Historical Society's doing a marker, I believe, now that I'm thinking about that. Cemetery Association, what if, Historical Society, would they possibly be interested in helping, because the gazebo is part of our heritage and history, as part of contributing with that?
Not bad.
Could we reach out to them and see
I can always
if
ask.
they have funds to do that?
I know that historically, a lot of the gazebo work has not been the village or the village's help, but a lot of the band and a lot of other people have been involved. I know recently we've gotten them some resources, and the community service has done a lot of work there. Even our former mayor was there helping install the most recent thing, which was really cool to see.
And I know Bill made mention of it, one of the band concerts.
Yep.
About doing the upgrade to the museum.
Yep.
And you should also talk to Phil Leonard, he had money left over from the,
Oh, yeah, the
memorial.
good call, Kevin.
Oh, that's great. Okay. I'll get on that. So I'm thinking we just table this for now and get some more information.
Yep.
I don't think we have a motion on, I just wanna get that out there. The meeting, I have nothing else on the agenda. I would like to go, I'd like to entertain a motion to go into executive discussion.
You said entertain?
Entertain a motion to go into executive session, to discuss personnel-related matters with no additional business
Motion.
afterwards.
Second.
Ben and what's your
Bobby.
name again? Bobby, it's too late. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Executive session is entered at 8:16 PM. Thank you guys very much.